congratulations on winning the Pulitzer Prize for breaking news photography. That's fantastic. And I know
Thank you, Nick.
we go back a few years, probably to the 80s. Were you at UPI at the same time I was?
I believe I was, and
Yeah.
then it all switched over to Reuters, and I think we ended up on a couple foreign trips together,
Yeah.
and we were both working for UPI/Reuters.
Yeah, because I was based overseas and you were based in the US and you were covering the White House back then.
Correct. Yep. Started in 1983.
So when did you start as a photographer?
I think I started. I mean, I really knew I wanted to do it really in middle school, and then by high school, I was shooting high school sports and working for, volunteering at the local newspaper, and then went from that to really, I started out part time in the journal and newspapers, and then ended up going full time there, and then ended up going. And while I was at the paper, I was freelancer for UPI at night,
Hmm.
and shooting professional sports, and then finally got my foot in the door at UPI with the help of Larry Rubenstein and a couple other people, and then I was there for 3, 4 years, and then went to the AP
Hmm.
in Washington, and was covering the White House then, and did that for 15 years. I was a chief photographer, and then I left the AP after 15 years and went to the New York Times, and I think I've been there now 22 years.
Wow. Wow. So how many
Yeah.
years as a photographer then, Doug?
Oh, I don't even want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I'm 65. You can do the math. A long damn time.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. So then how long specifically you've been covering the White House?
Uh,
Over.
since over 40 years. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
So
yeah, time sure
yeah,
flies,
a
huh?
long time.
Time sure
It
flies.
does. It's amazing. It does.
So really, what I want to do is talk about the Pulitzer Prize entries, the group of pictures. But let me maybe talk about your day that day in Butler. What was it like on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania?
Well, it was, deemed as a rally. The big hype of the rally was there was a possibility that J.D. Vance was going, or the President Trump was going to pick his vice presidential nominee. And then the night before, on Friday night, we found out it wasn't going to happen. But it didn't change the plans for covering the rally, so to speak. And so I left Washington on Friday, got there Saturday morning, and I was, we have a pre-check where we have to go in and preset. So 5 a.m. I was at the rally site, got in, it's dark, put everything down, security sweeps, all of that stuff that I think opened up eventually at like 8:30. And then we basically preset. I put a remote camera down, which was nowhere near where the shooting was. Um, but put that down, and then we were basically under a tent, and it was about 100 degrees outside, so we were really under that tent all day long, fighting for every inch of the following the sun, trying to stay in the shade. And then the rally was scheduled for 5 o'clock, I believe, and then it ended up kicking off right before 6 o'clock.
Right. And then you're in this ready room, I guess, just baking and waiting, baking and waiting. It's the old
Yeah.
news photographers hurry up and wait, which was we've done a lot of in our careers. So after all that waiting, then what happened?
So yeah, we waited, and then probably like 45 minutes before he came out, we went out on to the stage area. And there's an area around the stage, it's called the buffer zone, and the four press photographers that I was with: Anna Moneymaker from Getty, Evan Vucci from AP, Jamin Botsford from the Washington Post, and we were all in the buffer zone. Probably 30 minutes before he got there, taking pictures around, and looking for people. It was really hot again. People are, passing out, and the normal things that happen at outdoor
Right.
rallies. And then we got word the president was going to be there soon, and this, it was just, again, just like any other normal outdoor rally. He arrived on stage to, probably, I don't know, somebody said maybe 5 to 10,000 people there. Huge field, and it was just off and running. And then typically those photographers that are in the buffer zone are allowed to stay in that area for about 10 minutes to photograph the president that close. The area, and I think really it's because of security, the Secret Service. It's easier for them when there are not a lot of bodies moving around in the buffer zone. So they kick us out after about 10 minutes. So about 5 minutes in, I asked one of the the president's aides, "Listen, how much more time?" And she looked at her watch and said, "You got like 5 minutes left." And so I was like, okay. So, went up around to the front of the podium to try and get some headshots and then try and get some atmosphere pictures with the big flag behind him. And when he gestured over to his right at a chart that typically is shown at the end of the rallies, but it came up on the screen, the big screen, and he gestured there, and all of a sudden there were four loud pops. And I'm not a gun owner, and I had never heard an AR-15 fired before. I don't think I'll ever forget what it sounds like now. But the first four shots rang out, and then people started screaming, active shooter, get down." Then four more shots rang out. And by this time, President Trump had already, gestured. He looked over there. He grimaced. He grabbed his ear. He looked in his ear and went down. And I couldn't see him. So my instinct as a photographer is to go forward, find him. Where is he? How bad has he been hit? And that kind of thing. And, hell, not even know if he was alive at this point,
Right.
Nick. I mean, he's completely covered up by 5 agents who were on the stage in about 3 seconds on top of him, protecting him. And they were actually on stage before the second round of shots came out. So that tells you how fast they moved. So it was a lot of chaos, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling. And then I just went through my mind like, okay, how are they going to get him off the stage? You and I have covered a lot of presidential events, and we know that the Secret Service have a particular way of getting, whoever the protectee is on stage and off stage. But if something were to happen, then they have to have what's called an egress, where they have to get them off and shoo them away. So I realized, okay, this is where it's going to be. So I went to that side of the stage, and just about that time, he stood up and started pumping his fists, and then he pumped it again. And then at that point, it was like, oh my gosh, he has been shot. Look at the side of his face. There's blood all over his face, around his mouth. And then you could see his ears. They took him down and whisked him away into the limousine or to the SUV. So, pretty crazy day.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it actually live on TV. I was at some other event someplace else, and I was just sitting there waiting, as we always do. And I watched it live. And what struck me the most is I found you right off the bat because your big white hat.
Right.
And what struck me is how you moved back and forth across the stage. Like you kind of had this gut instinct about what was going to happen. I got to go left. Now I got to come back to the center. Now I'm going to the right. And watching you and your colleagues, in that situation was quite interesting. And as you said, that our gut instinct is to run towards, not run away. That's the innate part of it. And it's not the smartest thing to do, but to get those kind of pictures. The second thing that struck me was you didn't climb up on the stage. And that would have been my gut. Like somebody would have to holding me back because I would have kept wanting to go. But nobody climbed. None of you or your colleagues climbed up on the stage. And I guess you're warned about that.
Yes. That's one of those things where your press agent talks to you before the event, and having done it for so many years and been around that situation, I knew I would be in the way, and there's no reason to get up there. It would have been great to get up there, but I know that would have hampered his security. Secret Service, they would have flipped out, and especially because shortly after he was covered up, then in one of the frames, there's a guy with a big long gun. I mean, one of the counter snipers is already on stage, and that would have looked pretty bad if I would have tried to get on the stage. They would have certainly thrown me off, and I'd probably not have a White House pass anymore.
No. Yeah, or you'd be buried under 3 Secret Service agents and not moving, and then handcuffed until everybody's safe.
Exactly.
Then we'll let Doug go after everybody's
exactly.
Safe. So what happened afterwards? Then you're finished. You're probably, you and your colleagues are standing around a little bit in shock, like what just happened, kind of thing. And so, what did you do after?
So you're right. The moments right after the shooting were pretty remarkable in that you feel your adrenaline. I was shaking, and I admit it. I was shaking. I was pretty blown away by it
Mm,
all and just
mm,
shocked by what had happened. So we were standing there, my other photo colleagues and I, and our our press wrangler who was in charge of taking us around everywhere. Um, and the Secret Service agent came up to me and goes, "Hey, Doug, man, you guys have got to move. You're walking through my crime scene right here.
mm,
This is a crime scene. I got to get you guys out of here. I can't let you go back to the press riser yet." And so one of the other aides said, "Well, let's take him into OSA, which is the offstage announcement area, which is typically where the president is, there before he comes on stage in a big white tent."
mm.
So once we got into OSA, we walked through this tent and went in, and typically it's pretty quiet in there, and there were a number of staffers crying and really shaken up, male and female,
Mm.
completely in shock, also like we were. And that's when I was really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened. So of course my next reaction was, by God, I got to get all these pictures out.
Mm.
I've got to send as many pictures as I can. I think I sent a couple right after, like when we were waiting for the agent to tell us where to go and all of that. I sent, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 pictures then. But once I got into the tent, then I was able to look, like, calm down, focus, look in the viewfinder, and make sure my Sony device was connected to me, and I was sending away pictures, in less than 5 seconds,
Mm.
and which was pretty remarkable at that. And it, given there were so many people there, so many issues early on with the connectivity, but I was able to start sending them there. And then once I started sending them, the office called me, and and first it was our reporter who called me and said, Doug, where are you? Where are you? I was like, I'm here at the shooting. She was like, oh my God, what's going on? She said, well, I said, she said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. She said, well, we're hearing that President Trump was not shot. And I was like, no, I think that's incorrect. And she said, no. The White House is telling us that, there may have been something that chipped off of the teleprompter when he hit the ground, or it shattered when something was fired, but that he wasn't struck. And I'm looking through, and I'm looking in the back of my camera, and I'm like, no, Maggie, there's no question he was shot. She said, why do you say that? I said, well, he's gesturing at one picture. Next picture, he grimaces, he grabs his ear, he looks in his hand, there's blood on his hand, and then he goes down. And she's like, oh my God, you have that on your pictures? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, I'm going with it then. He's definitely been shot.
Mm.
So then the office, called back about 5 minutes later. My photo, editor, Jen Mossbarger, called me back and said, hey, keep filing. Do you happen to have anything of him, any pictures of him while he was gesturing and while he was actually being shot at? And I said, I think I do. So because my was most important was just wanting to get the fist pump out, the bloody face, all of that stuff. I thought that was going to be, the lead picture. So I started sending a bunch of stuff in. I said, I'm sending you every frame, Jen. I've got incredible connectivity. You're going to get all of these. So I must have sent probably 40 or 50 pictures from directly from my camera. And then she called me back a couple of minutes later and said, you won't believe this. And I said, what? She says, we think you have a picture of the actual bullet flying behind his head. And I was like, what? And she said, I'm going to text it to you right now. So she sent me a text message. I got it. I looked at it. I said, but okay, let me make sure that that's what it is, because that was a JPEG file. Let me go in and get my raw camera, the raw disc. I have two slots in the camera. I have one shooting JPEG, one shooting raw. So I said, let me get the raw image out and look at it really closely. So I ran, so then we begged our handler and the Secret Service to let us back to the press riser, because now probably 10 minutes had passed, maybe 15 at the most. So I went back to my computer, opened it up right away, started looking at it, and I started sending. And I was like, "Yep, it's in there, Jen. You can see the contrail of the the vapor behind the president's head." And she said, "Okay, we're going with it." So then they were, it was all over the internet. They had a triptych going. They had, me being quoted. And obviously there was, just complete chaos for a while.
Yeah, really, I want to get into some of the technical things. So, what camera did you use?
Sure. I was using the Sony A1, and I had had it on high. I had it with a 24 1.4 lens, and I think I'm one of those guys. You've seen my work. I like to shoot with a really shallow depth of
Hmm.
field. I love the prime lenses, so I think I had it cranked up to 8,000th of a second
Hmm.
at the because it was so bright and sunny. I mean, it was that beautiful
Right.
late afternoon summer light, and the sun was coming right into his face.
Hmm.
So really dialing it down, dialing it down. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at like 8,000. Can't go any higher, and I can't go any lower in the
Right.
ISO. So I ended up at like 64 ISO or 50 ISO, and then probably f2 on the lens.
Right.
So I think
Right.
that's one of the things that was able to capture the bullet was because I was shooting at such a high
Right.
shutter speed, and I
Yeah.
probably had 20 frames of the sequence of him
Right.
gesturing and then going down and then out of my frame.
Right. Right. And the lens 24, that's pretty wide. Why'd you choose that lens?
Yeah, I had just gone for my 50, and which is, I was shooting a little tighter for like
Mhm.
edge, but he had that huge American flag above his
Right.
head, and it was blowing in the wind. And I thought, okay, this will make a nice vertical. It'll be a nice, for our, mobile picture. So I started shooting wide, and then there were, the teleprompters were there, big, beautiful blue sky. And so I thought, oh, I'll get a couple of, the wide shots. And then that's when it happened.
Right.
Thankfully, I wasn't shooting with a 70 to 200. He probably would have never seen it,
Right.
or even the 50. I've talked to a number of people and said there probably would not have been the same, compression.
Right.
The compression with a 50 would have knocked it way out of focus.
Yeah.
So even at f2, it was able to at least keep it.
And then you talked a little bit about how you got your pictures back to the newsroom, and I think that a lot of people would be interested in how that actually works because you don't transmit right from the camera. You have to connect to a device. So tell me, how'd you connect?
Yeah, so I luckily had that Sony device, the transmitting device. It's got a long name.
It's called a PDT FP1,
P,
otherwise,
FP1.
yeah,
Yes.
otherwise known as a Pro T. That's the new word for it, the Pro T. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it saved my ass that day because and when I and interesting enough, as a photographer, you get to an event, the first thing you start doing is connectivity. Okay, now that I know where I'm going to be taking pictures from, all right, now how am I going to transmit my photos? So I realized then that my AT&T MiFi was not working at all. I couldn't get any connectivity with it. It was just, even though there was a cell tower within eye distance. And then the Verizon was being, I think the whole network, everybody there was probably on Verizon in Butler that day. And so I tried T-Mobile, and T-Mobile seemed to be the trick.
Mm.
And so once that happens, then your blood pressure goes down before the event. You're like, okay, I've got connectivity. I can go do my job and not worry about the technical side of it.
Mhm.
There are little glitches here and there, but with that device, it saved me because I was able to send pictures in less than 5 seconds, and those were 24 meg files.
Right, right. And I watched the pictures roll in directly after that, and I think there was only two of you using the PDT FP1 on that day, you and Evan, your colleague from the Associated Press. And I guess the others just had to wait till they could get connectivity.
Well, yes, they once we were in the offstage area, like you said, Evan also had the same Sony FP1 with him, and Jabin and Anna did not. And so once I looked over at one point to Anna, and tears were rolling down her eyes. She had really good pictures. She just said, I can't get any pictures out. I can't get any pictures out. And so I unplugged mine, plugged it into hers camera. She started sending away. I think Evan did the same thing with Jabin because Jabin was unable. He was on AT&T, and Jabin actually had been, had the foresight, because he knew connectivity was going to be a problem. He set up a Starlink
Mm.
on the back of the press riser, and he couldn't get to it.
Mm. Oh,
So
that's right, because you couldn't get to the pressurizer.
couldn't get
Yeah,
there. He
yeah,
couldn't get the connectivity. He had
right,
all these pictures, but he couldn't move
yeah,
anything. So both of us shared our FP1s with our colleagues, which I think was the right thing to do, given the fact that we had already sent our pictures
yeah.
out.
Yeah, and people forget that there is camaraderie. I mean, you and I've been on finish lines on a 100-meter dash for 8 hours. I'll watch your gear while you go for a bio break. We always sort of look after each other because it's not that easy. So what
That
do you
is so
think?
true.
So what do you think now, looking back on that day and winning a Pulitzer Prize?
I mean, obviously, I am very thankful that the Pulitzer Committee chose it because I think it was, I'm not
Unique.
saying, yeah, it's so unique and so different. It's been talked about, the fist pump picture, Evan had the best picture
Mm,
of that with the American flag behind him. Everybody else had, all four photographers, had
mm,
very unique,
mhm,
takes. Anna had that great picture of him looking down with the
mm,
blood on his
mm,
face, completely surrounded.
mm,
Um, Evan had the better. He had the
mm.
wide angle
Flag.
super. He was probably shooting with the 24 at the time with the flag. Mine were a little sharper because I had hit it into crop mode,
Mm,
and I think Jabin was probably in the same boat, shooting much like Vucci was. So we all
mm.
had very different pictures. Um, but I'm over the moon about it. It's been an incredible, magical week this week. The New York Times had an incredible celebration on Monday
Mm.
and lasted into Tuesday and now Wednesday. So it's been a week that the accolades keep coming in, and I've never dreamed of winning a solo
Mm.
Pulitzer in my life. So it's quite an honor.
Yeah, people probably won't know that this is your third Pulitzer. You had two as part of a team with the AP, and now this one is a solo one. So yeah, it must feel different.
It feels very different because I didn't think it would feel any different, right after it happened. But then, the way the Times is so good about it, my
Mm.
colleagues who have also, the reporters and editors are constantly, I've got
Yeah.
flowers and gift baskets and everything else showing up at the house,
Mm.
which is, so,
Yeah.
wonderful and thoughtful of them. So it does feel very different because, those are team and this
Yeah.
was an individual. This was
Yeah.
my luck.
And people don't know you, Doug, but everybody I know that knows you says it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Oh, that's nice of you, Nikki. Thank you. Yeah, I'm,
Eh,
I'm, it doesn't take a lot of energy to be nice. It takes a lot
no.
more energy to be a jerk. And so you and I have been around in the business for a long time, and it's so, rewarding when you hear that
Mm.
because, that's what I've always strived. I've looked, I had people like Bob Doherty,
Mm.
who was the chief photographer at the AP, who taught me so much
Mm.
about just work ethic and respect and all that
Mm.
sort of stuff. And I've had a lot of great mentors my entire
Yeah.
career, and I think that makes a big difference.
Right. Well, congratulations again, Doug, and thank you for doing this. I know you're packing for the next trip, so yeah,
Yes, packing for Saudi Arabia.
yeah, we'll let you go. Hopefully that it's a nice, easy trip on you over there and back.
Oh, thank you, Nick. This has been a pleasure talking to you.